Okay, by the way?
It sounds great.
Awesome. Well, we're live now. So what's up, everybody? This is Bradley Benner with Semantic Mastery. And today is round 2 of the SEO Bootcamp webinar that we did with Jeffrey Smith from, I don't know, about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, something like that, where we had a complete train wreck of a webinar. But we had a lot of people show up to that webinar and even transferred over from Webinar Jam to Google Hangouts. And we got a lot of really good feedback on the webinar, even though it was very difficult to watch because of the technical difficulties. But we hope we got everything fixed this time. So this is round 2. We've got Jeffrey in the background. He was sweating like a whore in church. So
literally like a whore in church.
So we're going to be talking. Jeffrey, how you doing, first of all?
I'm good, man. Good. Welcome. I mean, I'm really glad to be back. And like I said, let's not use the word slides because I get a little nervous at this point. We're just going to call them talking points. And then I'm going to jump over to another tool so we can just sort of expand on each idea one by one.
That's awesome. Well, like I told Jeffrey, it happens to the best of us. It sucks when it happens, but it happens nonetheless. So, you know, don't beat yourself up, man. That said, guys, I'm really excited to have him back on because I'm really impressed with his training. Like, I got to be honest, it's the best on-page SEO training and silo architecture training that I've seen. And that's why, you know, I just kind of want to recap what I said the last time at the beginning of the webinar, and that is we've had people ask us for years to provide on-page SEO and silo architecture training, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And we've done it inside various other programs like the Masterclass, the Mastermind. We cover it quite often, but we haven't had a standalone product for it. And even though we've had that requested over the last several years, it's not something that we've done. And we've always put that on the to-do list, but it wasn't a real high priority. And when I ran across Jeffrey's stuff about, I don't know, a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, I started looking for an all-in-one solution for building silos and kind of more advanced type site builds and things like that. And I thought about Jeffrey and the SEO design framework. And so I said, you know what, let me go have a look at that again. Because I looked at it a couple of years ago, but I really wasn't quite ready for that at the time. And so when I started looking at the SEO design framework and his plugin, the SEO Ultimate Plus, I got super impressed. What it was, to be honest, just to be clear with you guys, transparent, I started going through the training videos that he had on how to set up the SEO Ultimate plugin, and then obviously the design framework as well. And the videos that he has on just the YouTube channel, like, were so advanced. I was like, wow, this is crazy. So then when I reached out to him and he said, oh man, I got this SEO Bootcamp course coming out, I was like, dude, like, you just solved our problem because we don't have to do it ourselves now. And I started to go through his training and I was just floored. And so Jeffrey, I got to say, man, I really commend you. You put a lot of knowledge into that course, and it's nothing that we could have done any better. That's for damn sure.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
No problem, man.
It was a love of labor, man. I started doing this stuff a long time ago, back in the 90s. And so you just pick up a lot of stuff along the way. So just to not have slides, we're going to get through these really quick. So the objective of this webinar is really to show you how to rank your website using topical relevance. And then when you do add the off-page elements to it, it's really that's where you really can start to dominate your market. But honestly, if you think about a bucket that has a bunch of holes in it, if your on-page SEO is faulty, it doesn't matter how much links or backlinks you pour into it. A lot of the times it's going to end up on the floor. So that's really the objective here, is to show you how to build a real solid on-page presence using topical relevance, which really is the cornerstone of rankings. And so just to give you a little background on myself, I basically invented a product. I was at a coffee shop, had this idea. It was more like an epiphany hit me. And I had this idea that jumped in my head about creating an electronic air fragrance diffuser for the automobile. I had some other ones that were related to ceiling fans and attaching blades that had fragrance on them. But long story short, the one that was the most economical to develop was the car diffuser. And so set out to start building this empire around this thing. It took about 8 years to get off the ground, just to basically go through and, you know, find the right, the sourcing agents to basically manufacture the product, had to do everything from creating the website, getting that ranked, do all the marketing. So at the end of the conclusion of that, I was using the web back then, and this is prior to Google. I mean, they had like Hotbot, Lycos, Go, Excite, really old engines like that. And it was pretty easy once you figured out the algorithms to pretty much game the entire first page or first 2 or 3 pages. And at the time, since the company's name is Aeron, it's Aeron Lifestyle Technology, we're fighting it out with the Herman Miller Aeron chair, which is a huge success now. But essentially started doing SEO back then, was able to use that strategy to essentially distribute to about 17 countries. And we, at that point, we were able to lower our manufacturing costs. We got over to Taiwan, then we got over to China, brought that product back to the States, and it finally took off. And so as a result of that venture, it's now well into the 8-figure range. I was able to retire for a number of years. So I took about 4 years off. And then after that, came out of retirement in 2006 and said, well, I might as well do what I was using, which was the SEO component, to, create a market out of it, or create a business around it, I should say. So after that, I created SEO Design Solutions in Chicago and started doing the agency model. And it took about 2 years, but I was blogging on all things SEO over at SEO Design Solutions blog. Eventually got ranked for the keyword SEO, number 4 position. Around that same time, we had started basically building our own tools in-house. And so the SEO Design Framework and the SEO Ultimate plugin were essentially tools that we used to expedite the process to make it streamlined. Because as you know, if a lot of you guys have clients, or if you have larger clients in particular, just getting through the elements of the CMS can be a complete nightmare. You're talking about, like, for example, with Michael's, they had 5 or 6 different content management systems. None of them worked together. None of them, and you had to get authorization for everything. So rather than have all that headache, we decided to build the SEO Design Framework so that we could essentially just create a beacon site, slap on a blog or a subdomain, do all the optimization there, create a content strategy, and build out the topical relevance that we needed with the content and backlinks to that blog, to basically use it as a syndication platform. And so that's really how the framework came about. Simultaneous to that, the plugin was one of the things that we actually shared with the community back then. And lo and behold, we didn't really tell anybody about it for about 5 years because we weren't trying to breed competition, but we thought it'd be good to share. And the next thing we know, we've got like 2 million downloads. And this is prior to even, I think at the time there was all-in-one SEO pack. And Yoast was very popular with other plugins, but he hadn't really started doing the SEO plugin. So they came out, they completely dominated as far as the popularity space, but we were just, this wasn't our objective to make it a big thing. We were just doing this like, hey, this is what we're using. We'll just share it. And like I said, it got 2 million downloads, and that's sort of how that whole thing started. And so did the whole client model, and then unfortunately had an accident in 2012, had wrecked my motorcycle really bad. I was in the hospital for well over a year. So after that, shut down the client model, but then started focusing on the software. So that's where we are today. And so essentially, along the way, we had the opportunity to work with some really large clients like Time, American Express. We worked on sites like foodandwine.com, Real Simple, travelandleisure.com. And ironically, the same thing kept coming up over and over again. It's really about template optimization and site structure. Now, really the web is based on 3 things. It's based on language, topicality, and authority. If you can do those 3 things with your site architecture, or with the way that you sort of build your site out to begin with, you're going to insulate yourself against all the people that aren't doing that, as well as the 800-pound gorillas. You're going to basically be able to come up on them pretty quickly. So when you have a site that has a tremendous amount of authority like that, you can do a couple of little tweaks to things like how many outbound links are on the page, or changing your sidebars or your navigation to really get some lift. So all that stuff that we learned along the way, we essentially reintegrated back into our tools. And that's why there's such a robust set of tools inside of the framework and the plugin. So about 5 months ago, started working on SEO Bootcamp because it's a great thing. It's as Bradley said, we had created a great deal of content for the plugin as far as optimization strategies and things like that. And it was rather advanced, but I figured at this point, people really need to, for those of you who are just starting out, or for those of you who have already been well-versed in SEO, there's something about fundamentals. And so I just wanted to go back and just completely demystify the SEO process and take it back to brass tacks with how to get ranked. And so what we did is, if I jump over here, you'll notice that we actually created a modular-based training system. And let me go over here first. So, like I said, these are not slides, guys. These are not slides. Go here.
Yeah, just don't say the S word anymore, man, and
Right, right.
maybe it'll work.
There we go. Okay, so what we did is we basically took the SEO process and broke it into 5 modules. And so the first module, we actually called that Market Recon. And in Market Recon, we typically look at things like, the keywords, the how you're going to create the basis of your site architecture when you're going to create a blueprint. After that, once you've found the right keywords and you've actually drilled into your competition to find missed opportunities, you then go into your site architecture, and that's where you start to build out your various types of site architecture, being flat, siloed, thematic, using subdomains, etc. So in that module, we really take the deep dive into the site architecture process. Now, after you've found your keywords, you've got your site architecture laid out based on if it's going to be a local site, if it's going to be a national site, international site with different languages. Nonetheless, you can do all that in your site architecture and really streamline that process. But after that, you're going to go into the tactical content blueprint, which is really teaching you how you can use the content on your pages. And search engines use a number of things like multivariate shingle analysis, which is a really fancy word of saying shingles are like the groups of words on your page, and they're essentially overlapping. And the way that your words overlap create the entire roof, much like you think of a roof as shingles. So we teach you some strategies on how to use co-occurrence in there, how to use topical depth and topical breadth, how to find what phrases, modifiers, and what the tipping point is for your competitors, meaning how many pages of content they have, the type of content they're using. So the tactical content blueprint is really in the 30,000-foot view of things, designed to give you the tools that you need to then flesh out the site architecture. After that, we're going to go into the on-page SEO Ops module, and that's inside the training. We're going to cover some of these things here, but honestly, an hour is really not enough time. But in the on-page SEO Ops module, that's where you're going to find the technical SEO things. And once again, we're going to revisit some things that may be obvious, but there's something about fundamentals that, just like in martial arts, I had an instructor who was like, he really drilled the fundamentals. He learned in Japan, and we might do 4,000 kicks, 4,000 punches, 5,000 moves of one technique. But the point is, at the end of the day, if you know that you've got to get home and you can do that one technique well, it's the same principle. So you can sort of integrate no matter where your site is at, as far as how developed it is, or if you're just getting started, there's always something more to learn. So that's sort of the understanding of the basics.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I want to jump in on that comment for a moment.
Sure.
Because guys, here's the thing, everybody wants to go after like the sexy methods, right? The stuff that is fancy and that is cutting edge and all that. But there are some basics, some benchmarks that you should know, that like the fundamentals, as Jeffrey just said, that you should just be doing all the time. And yeah, sometimes they're boring and it's kind of like monotonous type stuff, but that's the type of stuff that builds the foundation so that any of the other methods that you apply have so much more effect, right?
Absolutely.
And so, building those foundational, like having that foundation is really, really super important. And I know a lot of people want to get in and go straight for all the advanced tactics and things like that, but always go back to basics first and start there.
Yeah, without the foundation, man, you can't really build a skyscraper. It's just going to fall.
Right.
So after that, we basically get into a variation of the off-page SEO Ops, is essentially the IFTTT network stuff that you're already familiar with if you're using Semantic Mastery. So it is literally a pain in the ass to build. So if you try to do it yourself, you're just better off hiring these guys to do it. But at least we'll cover some of those strategies and tactics. And then the special ops, I'm going to be adding more content to that based upon the feedback that we get from the users. And so let me go jump over here briefly and just sort of showcase the outline of some of the things that are in the course. Now, we talked about the modules. And so for module 1 and Market Recon, it's really about, winning the battle before you even set foot on the battlefield. And when you go into the keyword research and the planning phase, honestly, this is where 80% of your time should be at. It's literally, you can regain so much, because everybody, like Bradley was saying, everybody wants that sexy keyword, if you will. In most cases, when you're dealing with clients, they want to go after that, but you have to realize you've got to create the topical depth and breadth. And so keyword research is really one of the places where you can really cut your teeth and get all the depth that you need. So in the first module, we basically teach you how to do things like how to find the most relevant keywords and modifiers with related search. We show you the power of the knowledge graph. And without going into the techniques themselves and some of the stuff, we'll just jump in and leverage some other aspects of it. But the power of the knowledge graph right now is extremely important. So you see rich or featured snippets, and people also ask questions. These are great places to harvest because they're typically like long tail keyword variations that you can rank for very easily. So if you're just doing a reconnaissance mission and you're going out and starting with a root phrase, collecting all these different modifiers, etc., in a matter of time, you can pretty much determine where to place these keywords in the conversation. And so this sort of goes into the next component, which we'll talk about later, which is the site architecture intelligence, where we tell you or show you some quick and easy ways you can find out competitive keyword thresholds to essentially determine what's the barrier to entry against this phrase and how can I get ranked for it quickly. And so I'm going to jump over to mind map and let's go back to, let me see here, market recon. So just to give you some examples of things that you might look at as far as the mindset. And is my audio okay, guys? You can hear me, everything?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, you sound good, man.
Perfect. All right. So some of the questions that you're going to really ask yourself is, what are the best keywords for my business? Which keywords drive the most traffic? And so a lot of people are like, should I build geo-targeted modifiers or subdomains? These are some of the questions that come up. Which modifiers and synonyms are proven for traffic from competition? So I'll show you in a couple ways I'll just give you a couple examples of what we can do for market recon. Are you selling a product, a service, or both? How well you're positioned in the overall market, and what questions should you target? So those are the types of things that we tackle in there. And once you determine that, you'll very quickly and easily be able to assess what to do next. And so I'll use a case study, or at least an example rather, of one of our clients. Let me just go ahead and go back to the proper slide. Let me see if I can find them. Our client here is Best LA Neighborhoods. Okay, so when we started dealing with this client, this is what their site sort of looked like back in the day. All right, they were up against companies that were like Realtor.com and huge, tremendous authority sites. And I'll just go ahead and pop this up on another screen. And how I mentioned before about how your site architecture can really make the difference in how you can sort of slide by other competitors. It took a while to really build out the blueprint. And what I mean by the blueprint, if you're familiar with Network Empire and Domain Web Studio that Matt DeCruz had built, once you sort of find the right keywords, essentially what it's going to look like is when you get done with that, you're going to be able to place everything in its own silo. After that, you create the right categories. And then within those categories, you place supporting articles. So that structure for that client was completely upside down. They were focusing on something that was very narrow, and it just didn't really have the ability to create the rankings we wanted. So we had to start from scratch. We tore it down. We started over. We did keyword research. And since we're in a competitive space, I'll just go ahead and pull this tab over here. We're up against sites like Realtor.com. What we decided to do is, instead of going after the main phrases like real estate, Los Angeles real estate, etc., we went ahead and we targeted the neighborhoods. And so you can see in this instance, we built out homes for sale, architecture, and decor and furniture. Now, this is a secondary market, but really we focus on architecture, homes for sale, and then the neighborhoods. And so we use the neighborhoods, and the person is an amazing writer who actually has a site, Sonia Koch. And so she really had done a great job with the neighborhood pages. But what we did is we created a combination of creating in-depth content. We integrated another process. If you guys are familiar with the semantic web and and how powerful that is, there's a plugin that's called WordLift. We actually partner with WordLift, and we use this as a pilot site as well to implement basically semantic markup. And so if you'll see things like this, when you go into this site, it's essentially like a Wikipedia type site. It's amazing in that sense. We built out the topical nodes of relevance for the neighborhoods. We actually added multiple listing service, and then we actually used the plugin Deep Link Juggernaut from SEO Ultimate. So this is sort of how all these things can work together. After we found the right keywords, did the neighborhoods, and then we also targeted architects. But then what we also did is we added this type of markup, so that what happens is this is actually linked data. And if you know how difficult it is to try to create valid structured markup on a website, it's painstaking. With one glitch in your semantics, it's not going to work or validate. So by using this, you can see how we actually, by targeting the architects' names, by using other aspects of the cities and things like that, we created this extremely powerful site that has a tremendous amount of topical relevance, even though the domain authority is only 13, and we didn't really use backlinks to do this, when you start to search for things like the Wong House, for example, here's this client right here, and they're outranking, extremely powerful sites. I think it was above realtor.com. But the point is, this is the value of looking at topical breadth in your content, so that once you understand that conversation, it allows you to devour it. And so those are the types of tactics that we're teaching inside of the Market Recon training. And I believe that training module has somewhere around 16 videos, just so you can, we're going to be covering a number of different tools and tactics within each one of those to create a robust strategy so that you can understand how to do this stuff. And so when I look at the actual rankings for this competitor, you can see that between the different types of properties that we discussed, you can see that a lot of things are popping up here. We're seeing a lot of actual architects' names rank. And then the main phrase that they're really going after in this case was mid-century modern homes in Los Angeles. And that keyword, even architecture for sale across the nation is popping up on the second page at this point. So this was really done without backlinks. Like I said, the site has a domain authority of 13. So just understanding how this all works together. And so let me go back. I want to show you one more thing. If you look at the homes for sale section, this is how you can sort of leverage the power of content management systems. You'll notice where we go to a neighborhood, and then I need to click real estate for sale in that area. You'll notice that even in the multiple listing service, we were actually able to use deep link juggernaut, since this is working on WordPress, to actually create some solid internal link structures. So, all these, even though these pages leave somewhat of a footprint from the fact that they're using data from across different sites that are all sharing this, you can still break out and use this kind of thing for internal links. And as a result of that, it's allowing this client to rank for things like, let's just take a look. Century modern sale in Los Angeles. You understand what it's like when you close one of these. It's a big deal. You can make a lot of money from this. So let me see. They were breaking the top 10 last week. I think they're like hovering on the cusp at this point right here. So that's just but what I'm getting at here is that this was all done without backlinks. And so it's one of the things that really can be done to create that topical breadth and that keyword stemming, meaning that you're going to start ranking for multiple variations. All right. So that's just sort of an example of one of the things, but let's take another step in the direction of sort of how we did that. Let's go over here. So if we look at the site architecture intelligence, so I'm going to show you guys some things as well. I'll give you a quick tactic that you can utilize. For example, when you're looking for modifiers and pages from other competitors that are in your niche or market, if you use SEMrush and then you just go and export that data, really quick thing that you can do, go over here, grab the data tab, click filter. At this point, I'm just going to stop the top row from moving, freeze the pane. All right, and so as a result of this, this client has, or not client, this competitor, house.com, ranks for like millions of different keywords. But the cool thing is that if you use filters like text, I could literally look at just everything that has the word modern in it. And so right here, you can look for keyword ideas. And the idea would be you're looking for things that are between 0 to 50,000 competing pages in the beginning. You want to find out if they have any long tails that are ranking. So you can use filters in combination like this. So I could use search volume. Let's go ahead and use competitive. I'm looking at the number of competing pages. This is what I was looking at here. Number of results, pardon me. So by using filters here, I could say less than 50,000 competing pages. And as a result of that, I can find all their long tails. So you can do the same thing where you can actually point this at your competitors. So one of the exercises we do is we show you how to basically look at your top 10 competitors and go in and essentially reverse engineer the types of things that they're using on their to get ranked for, and find a lot of missed opportunities and niches. Same thing if I wanted to broaden that a little bit. Let's go to number of results and let it breathe to less than 300,000 competing pages. Go here again. Move that filter. All right, so they might not have that many less than 300,000 competing pages. Since they're a strong site. Do that. But the point is, you can literally go in by keyword. You can look at previous position. You can, if you need to, you can reset any of these filters at any given time. But you can really find anything that you'd like to look for additional categories that your competitors may be ranking for. Another thing that you want to look at, for example, is if you sort from A to Z, when you see large sections of pages by URL that are that have more than 5 or 6 instances, then you can see that there's a lot of keyword stemming where one page will rank for 20, 30, or up to hundreds of variations. So that's one of the things that you can do in order to essentially come up with some relative keyword ideas for your site architecture when you're building out your blueprint. All right. So after you've essentially, well, let me go back a little further. It's very important as well that you think about all types of questions, because those questions can emerge in your featured snippets. So when there's ways that we'll show you how we've been able to capture featured snippets by using question and answer schema. And so let me go over here, guys. So some of the processes, for example, we'll show you how to use Google, go through data mine related search, check out the featured snippets, write down the people also ask. A couple other tools that are really cool that are free and really informative is answerthepublic.com. You can find a lot of different keyword variations and modifiers in there and integrate that. If you're looking for ways to integrate those keywords in a social format, you can actually use BuzzSumo to find out what types of winning headlines that people have used, so that you don't have to recreate the wheel if you're going to create a more in-depth article. So you really have a number of options. When you're building out your site architecture, you can take the approach that used to work really well, which was to create a silo in a category and tons of supporting articles, or you can also just build out an in-depth article on your silo page, 2,000 words or more, take your questions and answers, right? And then integrate those questions and answers into the actual section headers of your website, so that your whole page might have 10, 20 questions on it, but each one of those were phrases that you found that either are ranking right now or showing up in the Google Knowledge Graph results, what the people also ask, or answer the public. So it's really about using these basics together, and at that point you can really create an extremely robust topical site. All right. We'll show you how to use LSI graph. It's really not that complicated, but if you use verbs in a certain way, you can really find a lot of other questions. Another thing that we look at is disambiguation is a big thing. So going back to sort of how search engines work, there's things like vectors and vector analysis, the bag of words model. And while that may sound complicated, pretty much if like a search engine sees the word diamond on the page and it sees the word shiny or luster, it knows that you're talking about a physical diamond. If it sees the word hot dog or mitt, it knows you're talking about a baseball diamond. So the way that you actually craft your content makes a big difference. And so disambiguation is huge. And you can actually use tools like Alchemy API. And I'll just jump over here. I've got this one open. To do natural language understanding and analysis. And so this was an example of a page that we had created that was based on the semantic web and why you should pay attention. Right. So then we just went ahead and threw this in there. If I just showed you this URL really quick. Over here, I actually use the word lift plugin to do the actual markup. Every one of the things that we are talking about, like the ontology, the web language, and all that is all marked up. But this was just because we wanted to showcase sort of how a search engine would look at your content. So this is WordLift doing its thing as well. But if I go back here, you can see that we were talking about those shingles and shingle analysis. What's doing the same thing now? when it's looking at the different categories, the concepts that are on the page, when it's looking at the keywords that are included, it's looking to define entities. It's looking to define who, what, where, when, and how. And so semantic web is something that you really should be looking at right now to just create that disambiguation. So if there's anything that's on your page that can mean two different things, you can use different types of markup with word lift, for example, to really dial it in. And so this is just an example. It's looking at sentiment. It's looking at emotion. It's going to determine the keywords. What we found with the keywords, when you see clusters of phrases on your site or on your pages, things that aren't relevant, typically we're looking at things that are 0.53 and above, which are extremely relevant. And so when you see things that really aren't as related, then it's just looking at that bag of words model. It's just grabbing things and showing you that. But that's just one way that you can sort of use free tools or a number of different types of tools to determine if you are in fact are disambiguating your content so that it's not like confusing to a search engine. All right. That's another thing that we go into. We'll show you how to do some other really cool things like, let me see, I'll just give you an example. This was a page that was written. What are rich snippets? Because our SEO Ultimate plugin has rich snippets in it. This is a page that has no backlinks. Okay, so let's just see if I right here, SEO Ultimate Plus, what are rich snippets and why should you use them? This was done as an example of a test of using a technique where we'll show you a couple tools that you can use to find the topical depth and breadth to determine what the keyword thresholds that you should be using for your content. But this, it's not a very old post. I think it might have 1 or 2 links to it by now, but this is an example of ranking for something that's extremely relevant. And this is what you would do. Since we are just talking about the different types of rich snippets, we're using educational content in the beginning that would then funnel somebody into a more transactional based purchase. So we talk about the different types of snippets. And then in the framework, we have a bottom. When you hit the bottom, it pops up. And now you can see that we're now driving you into a commercial based transaction, which is how to use our plugin to create rich snippets with ease. So that's an example of ways that you can use keyword research, how you can use what we call the tactical content blueprint, which is going to show you how and what to focus on. We knew what keywords were included. We knew what people were talking about. It showed the actual competitors, and we revealed ways that we could actually find the right modifiers to include. I had our writer create this piece, and then I think in about 2.5, 3 weeks, it emerged the top of the second page, and then it's been on the first page for several months now. So it's just an example of, once again, once you understand the conversation, that's how you can start to dominate and use it to increase commercial revenue.
Yeah, and here's the thing that what I find so amazing about the way that the semantic web has really reduced the need for backlinks when you have your content and your site architecture structured properly, yes, like what Jeffrey's sharing right now, guys. Think about it, guys. All of you now, I know there's a bit of a delay, so I don't expect you guys to answer right off the bat, but think about how hard it is to build good quality links, guys. Think about that. Like, yes, the days of using spam tools to do all your link building are pretty much gone. There's still obviously a time and a place to use those, but far removed from your money site. Think about PBNs, how much of a bitch that is now to hide your footprint. And you can actually do yourself a lot of damage by doing PBNs. There are so many backlinking methods that used to work that are now flat out toxic. And yes, it's so difficult to go out and get real quality links, like guest blogging. You guys know, but guest blogging or getting guest posts published on real quality sites, that's freaking expensive. And so just taking the time to learn how to properly optimize your content and structure your site and your internal linking is going to reduce and damn near eliminate the need for backlinks. Absolutely. And so you're much better off taking the time and learning this stuff and actually implementing it up front, because it's going to save you so much hassle down the road. And that's why, like, this is just absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. That was, we like to test everything. That's the whole point. And so let's just take a look at this slide here. Well, talking point, rather. So that's where I was sort of just touching on the semantic relationships and the organization of your themes. And so does your website have a clearly defined theme? If it's mixed fruit, guys, then it's going to be really difficult to try to get ranked for anything. Every one of those pages, it's reading every one of your content, every one of those words on your pages, rather, RankBrain can understand exactly what you're talking about. It's already doing disambiguation and looking for extracting relevant semantic entities to determine if you've really done your homework that way. So just the strategy of using, like I said, the questions and answers that you can find in things like the related searches and the other tools that we had talked about, like Answer the Public, etc., building a content strategy around that stuff. Once you know what that threshold is, it's pretty quick to start with a very solid page that's already designed to rank. And so that's the idea. If you build it right, if you think about search engines, really it's about, we talked about language and topicality. That's all, and then authority being the third thing. In the beginning, when you're first starting out, you've got it's like an uphill battle where it might take you 3 or 4 months to even get really indexed in any kind of to create a theme around your concepts for search engines to actually take you serious. But once you cross that tipping point, and that tipping point changes from every keyword based upon how many other people are fighting for it in the index. And so once you actually determine what that tipping point is, and you go out and say, all right, well, I'm going to need at least 10 pages of quality content to get my foot in the door with topical breadth and topical depth around this conversation. Then what happens is every time you publish, your stuff doesn't even have to get vetted. It essentially just goes, it just starts to rank. Where in the beginning, you're trying to get the attention of Google. Google's designed to look at the web from the top down. It's looking for that authority from either people hitting the site, people sharing it socially, and then obviously the on-page link structures, et cetera, and the off-page. But this stuff will save you a lot of time if you do it right from the onset. So let me just go ahead and keep going here. So I want to take a moment and show you just a couple basics on how site architecture can really impact a site. And there's a couple examples. If we go back and we look at like the word internet, okay, this is probably one of the most competitive. It's 3.8 billion competing pages that are fighting it out for this phrase. And the first organic result is Wikipedia. And it's not the root of Wikipedia. It's actually their internet page. And so what they've done is they've used intelligent site architecture by design. Since they're an international site, they've got the EN dot for the English version, and they've got their domain.com. They use Wiki, which is just, basically since that's their term, it's pretty much, they're keeping all the things close to the root folder. And then one hop away, they've essentially created a theme relevant page. It's all about what that is. They use the URL, they use the H1 tag in tandem, and any other time that the word internet appears on any one of those pages inside of their site, it's automatically linking to the internet page. So by doing this trifecta of using extremely relevant content, writing in-depth content, using anchors that are relevant to the page by deep linking to that page, or internally linking to that page and getting deep links back to that page. This is an example of how they're able to rank for absolutely everything without, now this is an example. This page obviously has a lot of backlinks to it, but this is as a result of the structure. Same thing if I were to look up computer networks in Google. Okay, Wikipedia has claimed the rich snippet, the featured snippet. It also has the #1 organic result, and it's not some random page, it's their computer network page. This is the same type of thing that you want to do by choosing a preferred landing page that makes the most sense for your business. And so that's sort of one of the things that you do in your blueprint. You determine what you want at the helm. As far as the silo page, which is your main topic, you choose appropriate categories, and then you create supporting articles that then in turn link to said page. And by doing that, what they're doing here is they're using a format of siloing. It's pretty much using one flat folder, and they're keeping it close to the root with the keyword. And so they're pretty much using a flat site architecture with the exception of that one folder, and they're using virtual theming. So inside of the site architecture intelligence module, we'll go into the various types of strategies around flat site architecture, which is like literally everything in the root folder, one away. We go into a topical site architecture, which is really good for shopping carts when you have post types that are being utilized. For that, instead of the wiki, would be your product name or your product category, if you will. We will go into virtual theming, which is if you have less thematic actual site structure and you're looking for ways to compensate for that, you can use virtual theming by using a simple technique. Let's just go ahead and do this. If you were, let's just say that you were Wikipedia. and you owned it, and you're looking for a way to find the top 10 pages for, let's just look at the word internet. If you're going to do this manually, site colon keyword the domain.com space internet, you could literally go, and now it's already told you that these 10 pages of all the pages that have that keyword on it, these are the top 10 pages. So you could then go to these 10 pages, go in and manually add links that are some variation, like the DNA braid or some variation of this keyword, and then link it to said page. Or if you have the Deep Link Juggernaut tool, you can actually do that by just going to the silo page itself. And so right here, what I've got is an example of, I just built out a quick silo. It took me like, I don't know, 5 minutes or less in the SEO design framework. And this is one of the bonuses that you guys will get if you take advantage of this offer. But I was very quickly and easily able to go in, create the main topic, create my categories, and then create my supporting articles here. And if I wanted to go back to my main topic page, right, I go over here and say that since we made this site look like the iPhone, let's just say that I wanted this page to have, just like Wikipedia, every time a certain keyword were mentioned, if I wanted that to link to this page, we have that option inside of our plugin that's called Instant Post Propulsion. And so you'd simply go to the Links tab, you'd add the word that you wanted, and by doing that and saving your changes, you've now added a global rule to the entire site where if that keyword's mentioned, it's automatically going to be linking back to said page. Much like we saw in the Wikipedia example, this creates a tremendous amount of internal link weight. And that link weight, once these individual pages start to get their own authority, and if you've built them out properly with the proper amount of content, breadth and depth, they're actually going to do quite well in and of themselves. And every one of those pages can rank other pages. So that's the thing about it, is if you know that once you have a page that's ranking in Google, wherever you link to that page from, you can pretty much rank in Google as well, or give it a boost. And we call that the grappling hook technique. So you want to use your pages in tandem in that way to capture a wider array of rankings. And that's the beauty of siloing. So you can see, for example, in a siloed environment, once I go into my main topic and my category, I'm only seeing the link for the category itself and back to the main topic, and all my articles are essentially ball rolling all that authority back up to make said keyword rank. And so it's a very powerful format. This is more of a strict silo navigation type, but like I said, in the site architecture intelligence module, we're going to cover that. We're going to cover some different tactics with subdomains, with doing the like the method I just told you about, virtual theming. And if you're interested in virtual theming, you can do that with Deep Link Juggernaut pretty easily. You can also set up content link thresholds so that essentially you can determine what type of post types you want. You can determine if you wanted to cap it at a certain amount of links. If there are 2 keywords that you have that are determined to rank on one page, you can say I only want one of them to rank. So what we usually do is we'll use like the primary phrase, a plural variation, and some modifier. So we don't essentially over optimize a page. But if you want to as well, you can actually add a dampener and then either globally decrease link frequency or add a dampener to a specific keyword so that you can really dial it in. So that in and of itself is going to save you a tremendous amount of time. And this is just one thing where all of this sort of works together. If we go back to, and we've only gotten into the first 2 modules right now, that's why I'm saying an hour is really not enough just to sort of go into this stuff. But you can see
we got another 45 minutes if you want, buddy. So.
All right, cool.
Also, I wanted to jump in real quick just to say, guys, any of you that have tried to create the silo specific navigation menus in WordPress without the help of a tool like the SEO Ultimate Plus and plugin, then you know how difficult that is, or the SEO design framework. Anyways, I know I've done it in the past using stuff like Widget Logic, like various plugins, and it takes an enormous amount of time to try to set all that up, and it can be confusing too. So
absolutely,
this just makes it like automatic. It's awesome.
Yeah, I said before, it's like we basically used the tools that we found, and we either created systems around them in such a way that we could just expedite the process. So it really didn't have to be overly complicated. We just build a feature into the plugin or the framework, and it's really about using these solid foundations, the foundational tools. But it's just like, it's really the space between your ears is the most powerful weapon. So that's what we're getting at. So some of the things we could look at. Okay, well, we touched on site architecture a little bit. And so talking points, like if you're using a content management system, is it SEO friendly? Because if it's not, it can be a nightmare. Can you create different page templates for different site segments? Now, that's a big one too, particularly when you're getting into these massive authority sites that have like 200 links on the sidebar. Every one of those things creates a snapshot. And even though there are algorithms like VIPs, they started back in the 90s, like visual page segmentation algorithms, they can determine where, what's in the navigation in the header, what's in the sidebar, and it looks at the topical content really to find the more, it weights the topical content heavier, meaning the stuff that's actually in the content segment of your site. But you can also do a lot by cleaning up your templates. And so we have some training in there that goes over different things that impact site architecture and ways that you can diversify it so that you're using, like I said, silo-specific navigation on pages. You can customize your navigation, and those are some of the things you can do with the framework as well. Let me take a look here. Another thing is thin content can really kill your optimization strategy. There's a couple things to think about: indexation and crawl prioritization. Basically, what I mean by that is there's certain areas that you want to block. If you've got pages on your site that are that are just pretty much the cookie cutter template, the last thing you want to do is having that in there impacting your relevancy for the pages that are indexed. So you can use things like rel canonical. You can use, if you have a lot of in-depth content, if you're siloing your content, you can use rel prev and next. And so we show you some tactics for stuff like that. Let me see here. So we had talked about the internal link structures. I wanted to go through each one of these, but you can see there's a lot of information here. But for those of you who already have sites that are there as well, we show you some pretty quick methods that you can utilize to essentially rein it in or recreate a theme relevant site architecture, and then use 301 redirects to essentially give that page or that site new life. Also thinking about going back and editing your aged content. There's ways that we show you how to use or mine those aged pages and then get links from those aged pages back to your fresh content as well, or 301 those, if you will. So there's a lot of just, in-depth training. I think there's about 50 plus videos in there right now, and I'm going to continue to add stuff to it. But let's keep moving here. So in the third module, it's the tactical content blueprint. And this is where we sort of talk about the topicality and relevance. For the silo pages or the main pages, for example, we suggest that you use 2,000 words or more on those pages. We suggest that you use questions and answer schema, and we'll show you how to do that as well. You can also implement jump links or inline anchors for those of you that, that when you click a certain part of a page and it jumps down. Well, every one of those jump links actually has weight. It's all an anchor weight that basically search engines look at. So this is where the way that you build your site architecture impacts. You could, by basically just siloing it properly and using jump links. And the moment you syndicate that URL on a syndication network or even sharing it socially, you've already got backlinks coming in with a theme relevant anchor that's going to a very specific section of your site. If you have a canonical link in there, then that entire page is going to get the juice for that. So that's how you can create keyword stemming, just by using jump links. So we sort of show you how you can use jump links like that to increase relevance for your on page. Different thresholds that we talk about for outbound links to text ratios. For example, we've found that by using one internal link for every 100 words works really well. So you don't have an improper text to link ratio. So we touch on that. And then I already showed you a couple of these different things where we just went through, and you can sort of data mine your competitors using the Alchemy API. All right. Let me jump back over here and show you some of the things that we have. Go down to this module here. So for site architecture intelligence, these are some of the topics, for example. So this is sort of the heading. We have when you get into the training, there's a pretty much watch me first video, and then you'll learn the training. These are some of the things that we're talking about. So we pretty much covered this right now when I was talking about establishing preferred landing pages, URL structure and folder placement. We touched on that with the Wikipedia example, template optimization. I could expand on that a little bit with, let's just hop over to Amazon. We'll jump back to this point. So with Amazon, for example, you'll see they've done an amazing job in siloing their site. Once you jump into a category, you'll see that the subcategories come up. And let's just go ahead and jump into computers and tablets, for example. Now, and they do this with, obviously with a lot of dynamic databases and things, but you'll see that now the site navigation has changed to laptops, tablets, desktops, monitors, etc. Right? And then they've siloed each one of these respectively. When I jump into another category down here, then all those things are going to disappear. And so template optimization, even though it can be done dynamically like this, it's very powerful when you do this right and you start to understand the relationship. And I'll give you, I'm going to conduct another search in a moment. You can see that I'm in computers and accessories, and all these different types of related siblings are here. And all these different links here are also available, but it's extremely theme relevant, and they've done this in a way that it just makes sense. And by doing this, and then you'll notice that in the URL string, they've got all these canonical references where they're just dynamically generated strings that are generated from their database. But when it's time for these pages to rank, all these internal links get turned into extremely theme relevant URL structures. And so I'll give you an example. If I type in iPhone cases, okay, so let me take a look here. I could have swore that Amazon at the time that I did this search before had completely dominated.
Amazon is slacking.
Wow, man. So maybe they got smacked.
Maybe.
This is interesting.
I can't believe Amazon getting smacked though, really.
Yeah, I mean, usually I was just going to make a point here that when you, well, I know what it is. I'll just use grilling tools, right? Here's an example of something that we look at. But the point is that, yeah, they might have gotten smacked here, guys.
I'll be damned. No, there's an Amazon link.
Yeah, it's wow.
Huh. I'd like to look at the SEM rush data on that. And look.
Yeah, so here we go. So here's an example. Like you can see that the grilling barbecue utensils. So this is an example of what happens when they finally get into a relevant category. They'll do a nice little rewrite to make it extremely theme relevant. And these are things that are ranking without links. And so I went into this and showed you how these different thematically relevant pages are, just from the sheer link weight of the site, are bubbling up in search results. And so that's just one of the things. So template optimization is real, and there's a lot of things you can do with that just to make sure that you're sending the right signals and you're eliminating duplicity, or the possibility of duplicity in your site architecture. All right. We go back. Pagination and indexation, we touched on that, and eliminating orphan pages. So touch briefly on the tactical content blueprint and essentially some of the things that are inside of that training. Can't get into too much of that. That'd be giving away the secret sauce. That's, you've got to get in there to really figure it out. But there's a nice little tutorial on how search engines score your content, what are shingles and how they work, proper way to integrate synonyms and modifiers in your content. We talked a little bit about the semantic web and showed you a couple examples how just by using that in the best LA neighborhoods and using a strategy where we remap the site with silos and then use the neighborhoods to stand out so that we can start ranking for those keywords, how that works really well. Now, the owner of that site is now going to go back and integrate questions and answers and do some schema around those questions and answers so you can start to devour all the different types of searches that appear and the people also ask. And so that's one of the things. And then after that, we get into the technical SEO. So we get into things like content length, titles and meta descriptions, and ways that you can actually data mine your competitors using SEM Rush to go in and find the top modifiers. And there's a little simple format that we share with you that'll show you how to write really solid titles and meta descriptions that are designed for click-throughs and as well as relevance. So we go through some of that. Indexation tips and canonicalization. So those are some of the things that we touch on. We also touch on, for example, the use of H3 header tags. And like H1, you use once, obviously. H2, you use one time. H3 tags you can use in a number of different ways, but you can use them in section headers. And there's a way that we'll show you how to use them in tandem with jump links. And so that was that first page that I showed you that ranked for rich snippets or what are rich snippets. We integrated 2 or 3 of these techniques in there, and it works really, really well. Also, some things that we talk about in the site architecture intelligence module, where you can actually build sitemaps or use PDFs. Now, a lot of people don't know that PDFs are like sponges for link flow. And if you have any PDFs in your site, particularly ones that are aged, you want to go back and make sure that you have some links back to your other site segments, or at least your homepage, if nothing else, because you can build links to those PDFs, or you can use, for example, like a no index comma follow meta tag for your meta robots tag on your sitemap, and you can hit that with some links to really feed entire site segments. And so link weight sculpting tactics are essentially included in the training, where we talk about different ways to do that. So, and then for the off page,
Hey, can I pause you for a minute?
Oh, hell yeah, please.
Okay, so guys, did you hear that? Like, he kind of snuck it in there, but you can no index pages on your site, particular PDFs, and you can still benefit from any link weight that or equity that's flowing into that page and redirect it wherever you want. It doesn't even have to appear in the index, guys.
Exactly.
It's kind of how you use canonicals as well. You can do that. I mean, there's so much that you can do. Like, we've experimented with PBNs that were set to no index and still got ranking boosts out of them, guys. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think, oh, well, if it's not indexed, it doesn't count. That's bullshit. It still counts. Google knows it's there, even if it's not in the index.
And I'll give you another example. We had a client in Chicago who had a dynamically generated site, and they basically have computer parts. And so all these parts were essentially model numbers. And when they started, they had 25,000 pages indexed. By using that technique, we had 2.5 million pages indexed within a 3-month window from using intelligent use of ball rolling the sitemaps to link to each other, and using rel, basically just saying no index comma follow, and then hitting those sitemaps with a variety of different ways to get link weight to them. And as a result of that, even though there was really the only distinction on that page that made it different was pretty much the model number, they ended up getting 2 to 3 rankings per page for all the model numbers that they were going after, and they increased their indexation to 2.5 million pages. So
wow, this
stuff is powerful, man.
Yeah,
it's so yeah, we talk about that. We talk about alt attributes. The plugin has a really cool new feature that we added, because alt attributes are essential to at least, once again, you think about this stuff, it's really about creating a very strong ranking signal just by taking away or using as many things as you can to create that disambiguation, or to really create that relevancy. So for example, in the plugin, we now have, I believe it's in the media library, we added an alt attribute mass editor. So the beautiful thing about SEO Ultimate Plus is that we believe in being able to hit things at 100 pages at a time. So you can literally go here and then mass edit all of your media, and then save changes. So you can literally add alt text here, so that it impacts your media library, like so. So that's a nice, cool little feature. So that's something that we had touched on over here in the training, talking about the using images and alt attributes. Another thing that you can do with the plugin is you can quickly and easily add structured markup. So if I go over here, we have 13 types of schema that can be added on the fly that validates. So if you come down here, you'll see that under rich snippets type, we have article, news article, blog post, local business, course, event, organization, person, product, recipe, reviews, software, video, and more. And just this one right here, for example, for a local business, we found just by adding this and saving changes that people are starting to pop up in the local pack, so in the 6-pack. So this is pretty straightforward. You just add all the relevant information. In this case, you take your Google Maps page and add the short URL so that it can tie it together, so it understands that relationship. Make sure that you use your NAP the same exact way, your name, address, phone number, the exact same way that you have it in your Google My Business page, save changes, and you have valid markup for that page. If you wanted to use it on a contact page, you could use organization, fill that information in, add your same as attributes for either, you could add all of your billing, technical support, and then there's areas for your social properties as well. If you had an individual that you wanted to have stand out in search results, you could use the person markup. So this is, there's a number of ways you can do this. We believe in providing as many options as possible. So you could also do this using the Code Inserter Plus module, which you'll find over here. Let me see. Code Inserter is for the entire site, where you can actually add code quickly and easily to the header, above content, below content, or footer. Code Inserter Plus, on the other hand, is designed for you to work on specific pages, posts, and post types. So that if you wanted to put like a contact form below your content on a certain page, you could do that. If you wanted to add structured markup to a certain page using JSON-LD instead of micro formats, you could do that. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and that's the idea here, is that you really, it's when you combine the tools with the strategy, you see how it all essentially works together. All right. So I think here, I'm going to show you guys a couple more things. So let me go back here. A lot of people were actually saying, hey, look, man, I've already done keyword research. Now what? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back for the more advanced types and just add an advanced track to each one of these training methods, because the last thing right now, it's a 5-week course, and every week you're going to get a new module dripped until it's done. But what I'm going to do is I've already started. I've uploaded this already. So I give you ideas on, okay, so I've already done keyword research. Now what? Well, go back, go to analytics, for example. Go look for missed opportunities in Google Webmaster Tools to see things that are essentially appearing on the horizon. We call this gap analysis, where you're going to start looking for things that are in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Go back and rebuild a new content silo based on that. Add some more categories. Go back and revise that page and add questions and answers schema, or add more topical depth. Use the H3 jump links. So there's a number of different things. And so keywords in the top 30 results can get lift. You can use that to, like I said, add content to an existing page. So you can start getting some keyword stemming going on, and just by using the different keyword clusters. You can add question and answer schema, which we cover in the 3rd module on how to do that. You pick that page and create a syndication strategy around that URL. So for example, you can go out and get 5 or 10 links, or start using, if you're using IFTTT networks, you can go out, create a second RSS feed, and start to syndicate that and other content through it, and then choose your URLs like that, where you're doing a mashup from different people, different authorities in the space. You're not just building links exclusive to yourself. You can use that to drive some links back to that page to get that page some more expression. So another thing, like I said, you can use you can create a new silo or category based on the keywords, and then you can use rel canonical and rel canonical that to the primary URL that you want to rank. Same thing. Every one of those links that gets built to those sibling pages that use a rel canonical are essentially saying, don't index this page, index the one that's in the canonical. So it's much like the sitemap tweak that I was just telling you guys about, if you know how to use it right. All right.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful about doing that, is it throws your competitors way off. If they come back and try doing a backlink analysis on a site, and they're going, well, how the hell is this page ranking? Because they don't see the canonicals and all the links pointed to the pages that are canonicalizing to your target URLs. It's awesome. Because they're all like, how the F is he doing this?
Yeah, I've ranked pages that didn't even have the keyword on it like that, man. Yep. It's awesome. Like you got a blank template, and they're like, how the hell are they ranking for this? Well, there's obviously ways to do that. You've seen a lot when you've been in the game for like 20 years. But that's just an example. So just, so I'm just going to go back, like I said, and make sure that everybody has enough content to keep them busy. So, see if there's room for improvement for growth or keywords that are stemming. Expand your clusters, scrape the top 10 sites and filter the keywords, and look for modifiers or pages with high search volume. It's like we're using with house.com. There's always an 800-pound gorilla in the space. So you can just literally look at number of results and say less than 1 million competing pages. And if I take that filter off, 1, 2, 3, right? If I take that, clear the text filter off of here, it's going to let it breathe. So you could basically see these are all the potential silos that they have in their site. And then you can also look at search volume. And then furthermore, start to look at things that make sense. So you can literally go through, find something that has high search volume, low competing pages, and then build a silo around that. So if you're looking to go after Milgard windows, well, there you go. 22,000 searches a month. So you could use this strategy, combine this with your off-page syndication, with your questions and answers. And so it's really, the point is, the space between your ears is really the most powerful weapon. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And so when you have tactics and tools, sky's the limit. It's just a matter of going back to that 80% of the time that should be spent planning, and then when you start to pull the execution, it always helps when you have tools that can help you do that. All right. Let me think here. Got a few more. And so for the, okay, this is one of the things we talked about for the off-page SEO ops. You've got your primary site set up with your branded and social rings here. You're going to make sure that you've added your pages to RSS, and then when they get blasted out, there's your first tier of backlinks. After you can set up your secondary network, and then set that up for curation and syndication, and then start adding stacks back to the second layer of RSS. So we've got, like I said, I'm going to be adding a lot more stuff in here, guys. Just so you know, it's an amazing course so far. It took me about 5 months, and like I said, it's not for everybody. If you are already crushing it out there, you may or may not need it, but this is one of those things that if you have clients that are always asking those questions about SEO that you just don't feel like you have to go into it, it's one of those things you can buy this or have your clients get this course so they can at least understand what you do. Because as a business owner, you should never hire somebody if you don't know what they're doing. So this is also a great way for a business owner. If you are a business owner and you're paying for SEO as well, it's always another way for you to at least understand the fundamentals that are out there and how you can apply other things so that essentially this all becomes second nature to your publishing process so that you two are working in tandem. So it's not like it's not fairy dust or unicorns. It's literally just practical tactics that you can use. All right. I think I could keep going on this stuff, but I mean, I'll give one example of you get into the silo structure stuff, right? So silo pages, we're talking about keywords that are 1 million competing pages or more in Google. Quickest way to determine that is place it in quotes. And once you find those phrases and you've built your blueprint out and you're ready to go build some stuff, here's an example of some of the things that we would do. So we'd create our silo page. We'd make sure that we have our categories in place. Pretty much there 300,000 competing pages or more. We want to make sure that we use our primary keyword target. We optimize the H1 and H2 tag. We use jump links in the H3 tag. We use a nice short URL. The primary keyword in the URL, no stop words, no if, the, and, or any of that stuff. Remove the stop words, keep it short. Don't stuff or reuse the same keywords in your URL structure, your titles or metas. And so there's just little notes like that. So we're going to be adding a lot of little checklists like this or things where you just want to go down the checklist and knock it out. For the category pages, you can add your schema, question and answer markup. You're going to add your rich content. So you want to make sure that you're linking out or using some kind of dynamic content to create a broader array. When like linking out is very important too. So who you link to is essentially a very strong co-citation factor. So instead of you being stingy with your links, look for .edus and govs and things like that you can link to, but you can also share content or syndicate content like that to really help your own relevance score increase and the topical depth of your site increase. We would actually, in this case, we'd make sure we use the silo navigation. We'd make sure that we use the deep link juggernaut to do the internal links. We'd make sure that we have 900 plus words, and then we'd use a link in the footer to the sitemap, and then we could daisy chain those sitemaps to make sure that, just like that technique that I talked about, the PDFs or the sitemaps, you can use the no index comma follow to make sure that they're all getting crawled and leaving their impact on the site architecture itself. So I don't want to give away too much more, but at least you understand that this is it's a robust training that's literally designed to sort of hit people in different stages, but just to really give you a solid foundation. So does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and we've got lots of comments already about wow, mind blown, all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome.
Cool. Well, like I said, would you agree that it's been time well spent? And I know we can't cover everything, but we do have a nice special offer for you. So usually the course is $997. What we're going to do is we're going to knock it out for $497, and we're going to include the SEO Bootcamp training, which is the 5-week training. We're going to do a 20-site license of SEO Ultimate Plus, and that's a $249 value. So if you have clients, you can go ahead and start, testing different formats. You can also import your data from Yoast and a variety of other SEO plugins inside of the plugin. So you can just hover your data in a couple of clicks. You're going to get the SEO design framework as well. And that's an unlimited site license. You can build out as many sites as you want with that. And there's 30 skins that you can download and start to play with, where we've already built out, all the navigation and the padding and all that types of stuff. And there's also some additional content you can get there. And then also for the first 10 people that want to take advantage of this offer, we're going to throw in an hour consultation with me, so that if you get stuck somewhere, basically you can say, hey, look, let's just cover that. Let's do a deep dive and show me what I need to do.
That's crazy. That's awesome of you, by the way.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So, and hey guys, we're going to throw in, Semantic Mastery is going to throw in a couple bonuses as well. One of them is going to be Content Kingpin, which is actually under the Mastery PR brand, but that I think goes hand in hand with this, because Content Kingpin is specifically our training on how to curate content and we call it hands-free content creation, because, or excuse me, hands-free content marketing. Because it's really, the training is designed for you to hand off to a virtual assistant and have virtual assistants do all your curating content for you, which is perfect for blog posts, for supporting articles and such within silos. And so we're going to give you Content Kingpin as a bonus, as well as the SEO battle plan.
Because thank you.
Yeah, because Jeffrey asked for that earlier today, and it makes perfect sense because of the whole military theme. And it's the SEO battle plan is really our blueprint for using our SERP space products for basically helping to get either new sites, local sites, or established sites even ranked, just using done for you services. Which,
yes,
to me, guys, again, it's all. I would recommend that you take your time to learn the on-page stuff, this kind of stuff, because and outsource as much of the other stuff, like the syndication network building, backlink building, press release publishing and distribution, all that kind of stuff, drive stack building, all that kind of stuff you should be outsourcing, and focus on learning this stuff, which is really going to set you up for success.
Definitely, particularly the semantic markup with WordLift as well. And we have a special offer in there. We can get you a 30% discount off that plugin, and that allows you to add true linked data. Basically, it creates triples just like Google itself that you can add markup to that all validate. And it's literally as easy as selecting a keyword and clicking a few buttons, and now you've got linked data in your sites as well. So these are all signals that work really well in tandem. So just to restate the offer, you're going to get SEO Bootcamp. You're going to get a 20-site license for SEO Ultimate Plus. It's usually $249. The SEO Design Framework. Bradley's thrown in Syndication Kingpin, as well as the SEO Battle Plan. And for the first 10, like I said, you can get an hour consultation if you get stuck anywhere. And so I really, really appreciate you guys allowing me to take the opportunity to share some of this stuff.
We're glad to have you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, man.
Really good stuff. And guys, like I said, just reach out, take advantage. By the way, if you're on the event page, there's 2 buttons in the About section that say official site or ticket seller URL or whatever. Tickets, both of those links will take you over to the offer page. If you purchased, guys, just reach out to us, support@semanticmastery.com. Again, support@semanticmastery.com. Let us know that you purchased. We'll validate it, and we'll add you to the bonuses. Okay.
And also, adding the framework membership area is a manual process. So once you purchase, you'll get the first email that lets you know that you'll get access to the training. After that, I'll go through and send out, access to the second tool, which is your 20-site license, and then the SEO Design Framework as well.
Awesome, man. I got some comment here, says, Calhoun says, joined last week and learning a lot from the training. He's one of our mastermind members.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
We had several of our mastermind members from last time we did the webinar with you, Jeffrey, that purchased, and every one of them said the same thing, like how superb the training is. So again, kudos to you, buddy.
Oh man, that means a lot. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I poured my heart into this stuff for years. It's by no means done. It's just, this is the first time that I've attempted to create a course like this. And so, it's my passion right now. Without giving away too many of the modules, you can see that, each one of these there's a number of things that you're going to get just the first week alone. I'll give you an example, guys. We added some bonus silo training because people were getting impatient. And so I decided to add the advanced techniques to the, I'm going to go through and just literally say, okay, if you've already done this stuff, you're waiting, you're chomping at the bit for next week. So, you can go here at least and get some satisfaction. So I actually added our website silo training for the SEO Design Framework. And this is a course that I created, I think it was about a year and a half ago. Everything's still relevant. We show you how to go through SEM Rush, find keyword ideas, do a quick walkthrough on the keyword planner inside of Tony Camaro goes through and walks through the keyword planner and shows you how you can find some ideas. We built a site out in that regard. After that, I show you how to use the competitor keyword scrape method with SEM Rush, which we sort of touched on there. After that, we go into how to organize your themes in silos. And then after that, we'll show you how to build them out quickly and easily by using the SEO design framework. And then we also have a sort of a deep dive checklist that will sort of walk you through that as well. So
awesome.
That's an example of something that you'll get inside now. So you can see the point here is that so we'll be adding more and more stuff to make sure that people have enough information. So don't fear. We're gonna make sure that it's extremely robust so that if ahead, be patient, but honestly, it's well worth the wait.
Kevin Porter mentioned that he was having trouble purchasing, but apparently it's working now. So Kevin, thank you for that. We appreciate the update because I was just going to bring that up to Jeffrey's attention.
Yeah.
If anything happens, guys, I think on the actual offer page at the bottom, there's a contact us link that goes to support@ultimateseobootcamp.com. If you have any questions regarding the purchase, reach out to Jeffrey at support. If you have any problems with anything beyond the purchase, reach out to us at support@semanticmastery.com and we'll get you sorted as well. Okay.
Absolutely, man. So this is amazing. I really
awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Hey, guess what? The presentation went well.
Just don't say the word slides. These were not slides, guys. These were talking points.
Well, Jeffrey, we appreciate you being on today, man. Anytime we'd love to have you back. So I'm sure you and I will get to do some more of these in the future as well.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And God bless to all you guys.
All right, guys. See you.
Take care.